In the year 1945, the world had just stopped burning. The Second World War was over. Cities were in ruins, people were tired, and soldiers were finally going home. But peace was not peace. It was just the silence before another storm. Two countries had survived stronger than ever: the United States of America and the Soviet Union. Both had won the war. And both now wanted to win the world. The United States believed in capitalism, in freedom, in markets, in democracy. The Soviet Union believed in communism, in control, in equality, in the state. And so began a war without bullets. A war of ideas, of fear, of power. A war that would last for nearly half a century. The world was divided. The Soviets replied with the Warsaw Pact. On one side, the West, led by America. The city was split, East Berlin under the Soviets. On the other, the East, led by the Soviet Union. Each side began building alliances. The US created NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. A military promise that if one country was attacked, all would fight back. Berlin, the heart of Germany, became the first battlefield. West Berlin under the Allies. In 1948, the Soviets tried to cut off the western part of the city. No food. No fuel. No supplies. They wanted America to give up. But America didn't. For almost a year, US planes flew day and night, dropping food and coal, the Berlin airlift. The Cold War had begun. A victory of patience, not of guns. But nobody knew it would last for decades. Every child born after 1945 would grow up under the shadow of fear. The war was over. But the world was not at peace. In the ashes of Europe, two superpowers stood tall: the United States and the Soviet Union. Both claimed to fight for freedom. But their meanings of freedom were worlds apart. Old typewriter click sound. In 1949, the world saw its first split. The West formed NATO. And the East responded with their own alliance. The map of the world was being drawn again. Not with ink, but with ideology. Background tone gets heavier. The Soviet Union sealed its borders. Winston Churchill had warned earlier that an Iron Curtain had fallen across Europe. Now, it was real. Germany was divided. East under Soviet control. West under American influence. And Berlin was a city trapped inside this new war. Soft ticking of a clock. In 1950, another front opened. Far away, in Asia. The Korean War. The North, backed by the Soviets. The South, by the Americans. Millions died. And the Cold War turned hot for the first time. The map of the world was being drawn again. Lines were not just on paper, they were lines of fear and loyalty. In the East, the Soviet Union built its wall of allies. In the West, the United States gathered its friends. The Cold War was no longer cold. It was heating up, in places far from both powers. In 1950, a small peninsula in Asia became the first battlefield of the New World Order. Korea. North versus South. Communism versus capitalism. But behind every bullet stood two giants: America and the Soviet Union. Old radio crackle sound. Cities burned again, soldiers marched again. And the world realized peace was just a word. By 1953, the Korean War ended. But nothing was really over. Borders stayed the same. Only the graves had multiplied. Meanwhile, the arms race had begun. Both sides were building bombs. Bigger, louder, deadlier. The nuclear age had arrived. And the world held its breath. Because one wrong move could end it all. But even as they built weapons of destruction, both sides built something else. Propaganda. Words became weapons. Movies, schools, radios. Everything told you whom to trust and whom to fear. The war for hearts and minds had begun. If you want its next part, then subscribe me and comment next part. If it will be 1K comments, then I will make next part. Thanks for watching.